in, so you start a new project, yeah. Because you're going back to Blender, Blender likes the normals to be computed as tangent space per fragment. Because you're on a Mac, we'll do it DirectX, I think, because again, Blender prefers DirectX. We're going to do PBR, metallic rough, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's select your mesh. So is it on the desktop?
Desktop, yeah.
Head. Open that, yep. So that's all the settings you need. Oh no, let's tick that back on. Press OK.
So when I'm doing this with my final thing, would I do the pose and then export it as it is there? As an OBJ?
No, you just export the model.
Okay. Oh,
and then texture the model, and then you apply the textures back to your model in Blender, and then you just move the model around, and the texture will follow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Could I pose and export it and then texture like that?
Yeah, you could do.
Yeah,
of course you can.
So either way.
Yeah, if it's just a static pose, is it a static pose?
Yeah,
just pose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the shadows will catch in a certain way. So there it is, look, it's come in, all nice and shiny and smooth. So your smoothing's come across well. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's turn it onto 3D view only. So then you can, before we can add any materials, we need to bake the textures. So it's got something to work with. Yeah, so you always do that as the first one. You bake your textures. We don't want a normal. We don't want an ID. That'll do us. We'll bake our texture. We'll bake our textures at 2K. Yeah, and it'll bake. It'll take a little while. Usually the ambient occlusion bit is where it stalls for a bit because that's really computationally heavy.
Yeah.
So that's the ambient occlusion creates where all the dark cavities are. The thickness is deriding how thick bits of it are. Looks like all our normals have come along correctly. You remember when we were in The Hague, we were getting like holes in things, and it's because the normal direction. The faces were pointing in the wrong direction or something, and that's your normal direction.
Right.
So, fingers crossed, once that's done. Yeah, so that's all baked. So you can delete these. You could save at that point if you wanted to. Yeah?
Yep.
We've got some. I would stick with your default materials really rather than smart materials. So look at these. Is there any kind of stone or anything like that?
Because one of my things, I'm doing I'm camera mapping an image.
Okay.
I was going to animate my character if I had time. If I did that, if I took it from Substance Painter, would it still have my amateur in it, or would I have to texture it after? If that makes any sense.
So, if you wanted to animate something,
I just wanted to sort of look around. My character look around.
Yeah, you would have to. Basically, you would texture your models.
Yeah.
You'd send out your models without the animation, texture them, and then that's quite cool.
Yeah, that's really good. That was fun actually.
Yes, that was just concrete dusty. Then you could think, right, it would kind of catch the dirt in there. So you could say, right, I'll do that as the next layer, the dirt sitting on top. I tend to, just as a little tip, I tend to use rust fine as anything that's like surface level kind of dirt, grime, moss as the starting point.
Yeah.
Change the colour of the rust to something you think looks like dirt. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then what you can do, so right, the dirt I only want to collect in the recesses. So we need to add a mask to it to tell it where to appear, black and white mask, where to appear, not to appear. And then you can look at some of your smart masks and think, oh right, okay, so concrete edges. Oh, I
do remember this part.
Yeah, dirt heavy. Dirt soft, dirt occlusion, which means it's going to sit in the occluded areas, which are the recesses. Drop that on there. So we take in the rust. Yeah, you might think, well, nothing's going on. So press on your dirt, MG dirt thing that's generated. You can invert what it's doing. Yeah, put your dirt level up. Oh, what's it doing? It's doing the opposite of what we want, maybe. Come on, catch up. Let's put alert level up. Let's see if
Are
it's-
these suites open all the time? Do I just need an ID card to get in?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I was wondering because this laptop's kind of a bit slow recently.
Yes, it can be in the recesses like that. But if you feel like there's too much around here, yeah, we basically want to paint black into here, into this mask, like in Photoshop, to switch it off. So we need to add into this, on top of the dirt mask that we've put on that's generating all this, let's add a paint layer. Let's see if I think we found the limits of this. If this is getting too slow to work this way, yeah, just come to your texture settings and change it to 512. So what that'll do is just give you a lower res texture whilst you're working. Take a while to recompute up. But then when you come to export, you just export a much higher resolution.
Okay, just change it back to...
You don't need to change it there, just when you right click and go export textures, you just pick the resolution you want to render at.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just means your working practices might be a bit quicker now.
Yeah, so like the subdivision
Yeah,
modifier in
come
Blender.
on. Oh, there you go, look, it's a bit more low res now, but we're running a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So if you zoom out, you can get the general impression of what things are like. Yeah?
Yeah.
So now I've got a paint layer in there, look, and I come down to my paint colour. If I paint black in there, hypothetically, come on. Ah, so it's not multiplying down, is it? So basically, come on. Blending mode, multiply. So I'm multiplying the paint. So basically what multiply as a blending mode will do is only let black values through to the one below. So hopefully now if I paint... Oh, is it on white still? It's a bit strange. What was that doing? It's running so slow I can't actually see, so I'm just going to delete that off. I'm actually going to come to the mask. It's probably because we've got that QuickTime recording running at the same time, we are finding the limits of it. Come on. Yeah, so we're going to have to add, what would it be? Oh, your patch is getting low. I'm going to add I'm going to add a fill layer, and I'm going to multiply this down. So basically we're putting sub layers within your mask itself, and into this fill, I'm going to paint black. Hopefully this should work. Come on, catch up. It's alright. Alright, it was working. I was just a bit impatient. So let's think, John, think. So if I select that, let's come to brushes, get dry mud. Come on, show up. Well, I might even have to take it down to 256. Yeah, we've gone really low res now. Look. Generating thumbnails, I know.
It's recently started because like when I was using Blender to, I made like a walk animation. And it like edited it out fine, animated it, all that perfectly fine. Then today I was trying to look at the render view at my model and it just sort of completely froze and cut off. I was like, I think I'm just sort of testing my laptop for
you've probably.
life.
So, let's try this again. Okay, I'm going to add Think, John, think. Okay, yeah. So I've put a white fill layer on top of this. So what I'm going to do now is get a dirt brush, hopefully. She won't let me do. So let's think again. Add paint. Multiply that down. This didn't seem to work before, did it? Not like. It seems to be picking up. Oh, now it's picking up brush shapes now. That's good. About time. So now I'm getting rid of the mud where I don't want it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So say, look, so basically I've got this mask here that's creating that random dirt. Then within the same mask, I put a paint layer above it because I'm painting black and I want the black to switch off what's underneath. I've got this set to multiply. Then, let's say for example you wanted moss on top of this. Let's think about what moss again is, like a fine rust. It's going to be this time. Not that green.
Radioactive?
Yeah, with it greeny yellow. And maybe not as saturated. Yeah? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then if you come down to smart masks, I think there's something called musty ground, surface rust, rust paint, oxidization. Oxidization could work quite nice. Drop that as a mask on your green. So it's just about adding different layers. You select the mask that you dragged on. You can invert it, seeing it's doing the opposite of what it was doing. The global balance is usually how much it's having an effect. Because I've inverted it, I have to go in the opposite direction. Yeah, you get the idea?
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, this is looking a bit too 5-6. Let's brave a new world. Give it a minute.
So when I'm doing the one where I animate them a bit, would I UV wrap him first?
Yeah, you
Texture
unwrap the
first.
models first. Don't worry about the animation. You do all the models first. You texture them. Bring the textures back onto the models. Then animate them. Blender's job then is to skew the textures a bit on it based on the animation.
So when because obviously you have to export it as an
OBJ, yeah.
OBJ, do you import it back into Blender after that, or do you just...
Yeah, you don't have to use the same OBJ. You just put it back onto the model. Because the OBJ is just a reference of the model you've got in Blender.
Right, okay.
Yeah? So then if you select that model again, without the OBJ, don't import it in, just select the model again, the head, inside Blender, go to Material Textures, as long as it's UV unwrap still, it'll then map the textures correctly onto it.
Okay, yeah.
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 There you go, look, in Two, that looks really nice. Look, you see all this fine detail.
Yeah. Right, perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You
thank you
get
very
the idea.
much.
That's rubbish. You get the idea. You're building it up, stone.
No, 100%.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
using materials imaginatively. So if there's not a material called moss, but you think, well, texturally, the surface level of rust is kind of fine and there's
Yeah.
rays from a surface. That
Can
looks
you download other textures for Substance Painter? Like from, I found something called
Substance Share.
Polygon, or...
No, you won't be able to use those.
No, okay. Substance Share. This one.
Substance Share, but they're smart materials, but they tend to be really hit and miss on how good they are, and they can
Okay.
kill your computer if they're not well.
Alright, okay. Thank you, John.
Are you?
I've literally made